Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit with another episode of What Are We Eating? Today I'm trying two different kinds of heat and eat barbecue that I found at my local Aldi. The first one is the Park Street Deli 16 ounce pork burn ends that cost $6.09. And the second one is the Park Street Deli 16 ounce seasoned pulled pork with barbecue sauce that costs $5.99. So let's try the pork burn ends first, which are seasoned and seared pork with barbecue sauce with smoke flavor added. Whenever you see that smoke flavor has been added, that immediately tells you that it's not real barbecue, and that the meat was more than likely cooked in a big pressure cooker in a factory. And adding barbecue sauce to cooked meat doesn't make it barbecue, but in Pork Street Deli's defense, they didn't specifically call this barbecue, but they're leading the consumer to believe it's barbecue by calling it burnt ends, which burnt ends are barbecue. Here's a list of ingredients. Per 5 ounce serving, there's 290 calories, 11 grams of total fat, 5 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, 65 milligrams of cholesterol, 790 milligrams of sodium, 27 grams of carbohydrates, no fiber, 23 grams of sugars, and 21 grams of protein. Now here's our pork burn ends right out of the freezer and right out of the package. Now we're supposed to leave the burnt ends in the bag, in the tray, puncture the bag, and then microwave on high for 3 minutes. After microwaving on high for 3 minutes, our pork burn ends with barbecue sauce is ready. Now, if you've never had or you're not familiar with pork burn ends, here's what they should look like. Little morsels of succulent, fatty, meaty goodness. And here we have the Pork Street Deli's pork burn ends, which pretty much looks like a tray of stew meat with barbecue sauce on it, which is exactly what it is. Once the bag was opened, you immediately got that liquid smoke aroma, which isn't very pleasant. So we shanked our first pork burn end like a prison snitch. And then into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. Oh boy. Houston, we have a problem. The first thing that hits your taste buds is the liquid smoke. It's terrible. To me, liquid smoke tastes like what the bottom of an ashtray would taste like. If you don't believe me, go taste an ashtray. The second issue we had was this meat had no fat in it whatsoever. And that's after trying several different pieces. Now I know this isn't going to make any sense, but trust me, the meat was tender, but it was so dry, it was tough. This was more than likely the ham of the pig, which would be their rear leg, or possibly pork loin, both of which are very lean. But the pork loin is a little bit more expensive than the ham. That's why I'm guessing it's ham. And I'm not talking about a smoked and cured ham, but rather a fresh ham, which is the hindquarter of the pig. Pork burn ends should be made with a fatty cut of meat, ideally pork belly, but you can also use pork shoulder. The Park Street Deli's pork burn ends were an absolute fail. From the overly smoky, fake, bland sauce to the super dry and tough flavorless pork, which is why I'm giving it a 1 out of 10. And I would not recommend you, the people, to waste $6.09 on it. Now let's see if the Park Street Deli seasoned smoked pulled pork with barbecue sauce fares any better. Here's the list of ingredients. Each 5 ounce serving has 320 calories, 12 grams of total fat, 4.5 grams of saturated fat, 60 milligrams of cholesterol, 760 milligrams of sodium, 33 grams of carbohydrates, 28 grams of sugars, and 17 grams of protein. Now here's our pulled pork right out of the freezer and right out of the package. And now we're going to poke a hole in the top and microwave it on high for 3 minutes. Now here's our pulled pork after microwaving on high for 3 minutes. And at least this time when we cut the bag open, I didn't get that liquid smoke aroma. Now this right here is why slow cooking a lean piece of meat just isn't a good idea. Because at least to me, once you cook chicken breast in a slow cooker, or lean pork, or any other kind of meat, it looks like hair. And it literally makes me gag. Lean meats just become stringy and dry and tough the longer you cook them. So we gave it all a good mix, and there appears to be a lot of unsauced pork. So we continued to mix the pork until it was all coated in the sauce. So we used the fork to fork up a big forking forkful of the pork. Had we used a spoon, we would have been taking a bite of pork stew with all the sauce and juices, and too bad there's no fat in there. To me, that looks absolutely disgusting. But for you, the people, into the old pie hole and down the gullet it went. Oh boy, here we go again. This mop is exactly what this pork felt like in my mouth. It's stringy, dry, and tough. The meat on the pulled pork and the meat on the pork burn ends was absolutely terrible. The sauce on the burn ends was even worse. However, it's a shame they used this barbecue sauce on the pork, because the barbecue sauce, to me, was absolutely fantastic. And that's weird, because I don't like overly sweet sauces, and this sauce was very, very sweet, but with a good flavor without any liquid smoke flavor. So I'm giving the Park Place Deli's pulled pork with barbecue sauce a 2 out of 10. And that's only because of the sauce. Thank you all very much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.